have fun with fermentation. I also want to say that kombucha is some sort of like a gateway to fermented foods for a lot of us, especially because it is so versatile and it has a very unique taste to that. So if you are somebody who's interested into beverages or who's interested in gut health, kombucha is a great place to start. So the whole 1 hour, we'll start with talking about fermentation, a little bit about kombucha history. Then we'll do a demo where we'll tell you all the ingredients that you need to have to even start your kombucha journey. We'll take question and answer along the way. So please feel free to ask us questions. It's really nice to learn with the group's input. And then we will talk about the basic maintenance do's and don'ts when you are brewing kombucha. Very short, very quick, just to give you the technical foundation of how to build upon that. And then we'll close with some ideas of flavorings and food pairings that you can uses basically of kombucha that you can definitely try being right at home. So let's begin. So kombucha is in simplest terms is ready to drink fermented tea. When I say ready to drink fermented, I also mean that it involves certain kind of microbes that are very unique, and they live in a culture and they ferment the tea over a period of time. And during this fermentation, the sweet tea changes its taste, it changes its complete nutrition profile and becomes kombucha. So you definitely need that culture, that engine that transforms tea into kombucha. There is a concept called back slopping. You would hear it in fermentation world, where it means that you need a previously brewed kombucha to begin making a new batch. So this term is used a lot, so don't get overwhelmed when you hear this later on, because it's nothing but using previously brewed kombucha and introducing it in your new batch. Very similar to how we make yogurt at home. We know that without previously made yogurt, you really can't make a fresh batch of yogurt. So that process of bringing that 1 chammach of curd in your vessel is nothing but back slopping. So the whole fermentation as a practice is a fairly ancient practice of preserving foods for situations like famines and stuff, where or even cold weather. And it has been followed for like thousands and thousands of years. There have been evidences of fermented vegetables being buried under the soil. There have been evidences of wines and beers being made in ancient civilizations. Earlier, the folks did not know about how healthy or how important they could be for our gut health. They just thought that it is a way to preserve food for adverse times. But later on, with the advent of science and technology and the interest in gut health made us realize that fermented foods are super beneficial because they're loaded with bacteria and other microbes that are integral part of our health. The microbes like the bacteria which are colonized in our gut are so crucial to our overall mental health, our nervous system, our immunity. So those things were not known before, but now we know, we have evidences that eating these kind of live cultured food is super good for us. And it's fairly easy to make also. Another thing that I like to point out is that when we hear the term bacteria or when we hear the term microbes, we kind of get repulsed. But it is not the case. It is a complete misinformation because a lot of the bacteria are actually good for us. In fact, we as humans are as much as humans as we are bacteria. The bacteria cells and human cells are almost like 1:1 ratio. All right. So before I go ahead, I really want to ask the participants, how have you guys had kombucha before, or if you are like super new to this and just trying to figure your way into the fermentation world? Probably just a chat and say yes. If you have had kombucha before, will be nice for me to know. All right, I see yeses. Heard about it, wanted to try to make it. Okay. Want to try, love it. That's awesome. I'm seeing a lot of diverse responses. Somebody wants to try, somebody wants to make at home, some folks love it, some yet to brew, yet to start their journey. I think it's a beautiful way, you know, how a lot of people who have a common love for kombucha are coming together. That's awesome. Never tried. All right. That's awesome. So if you guys are brewing along, that's cool. You can do it, or you can just take a pen and paper, whatever we are discussing, just make a note, and you can do it later on also. So to begin with your like brewing kombucha at home, the first and foremost thing that you normally need is to find out a SCOBY. SCOBY is the term given to the kombucha culture. So I'll also give you some information, but yeah, let me start with the acronyms. So SCOBY is an acronym for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. It is a very specific group of bacteria and very specific group of yeasts that kind of started to live together, and they feed on sweetened tea. It just happened naturally that there was somebody long ago, mostly in ancient China, somebody brewed a pot of sweet tea. Probably it was sweetened with honey at the time, and they did not drink it at that time, and they just left it as it is. And after a few days, somebody decided to drink that tea, and they learned that it was little tangy and little sweet, and they really enjoyed the taste. So it was, you know, somebody who was a risk taker who had that stale tea and figured that it tastes really good, and they preserved that first batch of tea and start to share it with others and start to make bigger batches with that same cultured tea. So mostly it would have happened like some fly or insect had some bacteria in their feet, and they would have landed in the teapot, and they would have cultured the tea with that specific bacteria and other microbes. And that's how I like to believe that kombucha was discovered as a happy accident. And people just started to share the love of that sweet and sour tea with their friends, family. It went to the noble classes. It went to, from ancient China, it went to Russia, Eastern Europe, and to the West. And practically now I think there are all the countries that have some or the other people brewing their own kombucha with local ingredients and stuff like that. So that was a little bit about what I learned about kombucha, the history as such. You will see a lot of stories around on the internet. There are many stories about a Korean doctor treating a Japanese emperor and stuff like that. But they are not like well-written, documented history. They're all like stories that folks came up with. We don't have evidences to prove them. But one thing is for sure, that it was like kombucha was an happy accident like any other ferment. So yes, we are coming to SCOBY again. So I will just show you how a typical kombucha jar normally looks like. You would have seen this like a lot of times. You will see liquid, and you will see some sort of floating saucer, like a pancake around. So this is a culture jar that we have. And we are going to use this to make our kombucha. For anybody who wants to source a SCOBY, you can look online. There are plenty of vendors whom you can buy a SCOBY from, but always look for something which has a lot of liquid, because liquid is where the actual life culture is. The white pancake is just a byproduct. So the bacteria spin this cellulose. It's called bacterial cellulose, and they spin it while they are fermenting the tea. So it's one of the byproducts. It's jelly-like, rubbery, and it's difficult to tear. It's almost like leather. So you can use the liquid, and you can use the pancake along with it, and we will call it Scoby together. So whenever you're buying, make sure that you have a lot of liquid in it, and it is not dehydrated. As the liquid has to be very tangy also. All right, the other important ingredient is water. Try to use filtered water which has no chlorine. You don't use direct tap water because it might have a lot of chlorine. Chlorine kind of interacts with your Scoby, and if you use it long term, it might damage your culture also. Another very important ingredient is your tea, and we really enjoy exploring a lot of teas. So this is a black tea that we use. If you can get your hands on really good loose leaf tea like this one is, get some good tea. You can also use the CTC tea, the ones which we use for our chais. You can use that also. Green teas is also a great option because it makes a very light and very mellow kombucha. So if you are a fan of that flavor profile, please do try. You can also try oolongs, and that's something that we also use. We make our kombucha, one of our product, with oolong teas. Beautiful, beautiful flavor profile. So if you're into teas, you can really do blends. You can choose nice quality teas and make your kombucha very unique to your flavor profile. You can use blends, blacks and greens, or blacks and oolongs, or green or oolongs. It all will give you different flavor profiles. And I think that's the beauty of kombucha. You can make it as customized as you want. So far, if anybody has any questions, we can take them. You can type it on the chat box, and I will take it along the way. Cool. Very important ingredient, the third one, is sugar. So I have here is plain white sugar, and I know a lot of you might think, why do we use sugar? Could we not? Okay, tea which is already flavored. Okay, I'm going to tell you guys one important thing. When I say tea, it should be Camellia sinensis tea. It should not be a herbal tea, which means dry flowers or dry spices. No, we do not want that. We want actual tea, and preferably without any flavoring oils or any other flavors in it. No artificial flavors, absolutely whatsoever. Use the plain basic tea. What is a good ratio of black tea to green? We actually really like 1:1, like half black tea and half green makes a really well-balanced flavor. But we also like just 100% green tea also makes a very beautiful, very light, a little effervescent green tea kombucha. Love it to the core. Yeah, so the sugar is one of the most important ingredients of kombucha, like a primary one. Why do I say that? Is because sugar drives the fermentation process. The bacteria and the yeast needs carbohydrates for their survival and to convert the tea nutrients into kombucha that is beneficial. So sugar is what drives the yeasts. It drives the bacteria, and without sugar, you practically do not have a kombucha. And the best part is that you begin with a certain quantity of kombucha when you're starting to brew, but over a period of time, the sugar reduces and it is converted into acids. So you see how something which is sweet becomes sour during the fermentation process, and you do not have to worry about the sweetness. So one of the primary ingredients of kombucha is actually acetic acid, gluconic acid, and glucuronic acid. That's what gives kombucha that sour taste. And it all comes from sugar. And it's one of the most coolest thing I've ever discovered while fermenting. So do not skip on the sugar. Okay, we have a question which says jaggery. So we need to understand that jaggery is is a form of sweetness that is also loaded with trace minerals, also loaded with the raw part of sweetness that sugar is not. Sugar is like the most plain, basic, refined. And this is how we give the SCOBY instant food. SCOBY, the bacteria and the yeast, needs instant food to start making those acids. We want that process to start as soon as possible. And to do that, we need to give them the most basic form of carbohydrates, and that is sugar. If we use jaggery, the process of making acids will be delayed. And during this delay, there is a chance of contamination. So you would want to really, really focus on giving the most basic, great quality white cane sugar. You can use organic white cane sugar. Try to use a good quality one, not like the standard, very highly refined ones, but a plain white organic cane sugar is the best. Can we use only fruit and no sugar? So you can do that in your experimental batches. There are folks who just use, say, kiwi juice or even mango juice if they are starting with the first fermentation. But when you're very new to this process, begin with sugar and ferment it for a really long time and reduce the sugars completely. You can reduce the sugars like almost 80 to 90%, and you will not have sugar at all. So rather than using something, some other sugars in the first phase itself, use the standard sugar and ferment for a really long time. And that way you will just have a very potent kombucha without any much sugars. So let's begin with doing a demonstration. You would need glass jar, of course, glass jar, because it's economical and it is super convenient. This one is sanitized and also with hot water. You would want it to be as clean as possible. I'm going to give you a recipe for 1 liter kombucha, and then you can multiply it for whatever your batch size is. So we're going to brew 1 liter kombucha, and we need for that 4 grams of tea. We're going to brew 4 grams of tea, however you like. You can use a saucepan, you can use a small vessel, however you like to use. I'm going to use a French press, and I'm going to take tea, and I'm going to weigh 4 grams of the tea. I have a weighing scale here. We're using a black tea right now. You can use a standard white cane sugar, sulfurless, all those brands that you see, they should work. There's also a sugar called Khansari sugar. That's also great if you can get your hands on that. But really the idea is to ferment it so long that you wouldn't need to worry about any sugar whatsoever. So start with anything that you can get your hands on, and then improvise and figure out what you like. So we have 4 grams of tea. I'm going to quickly put it in my brewing vessel, and we'll take 300 grams of super hot water. So a lot of teas have different temperatures. The black teas can take as much as 95, 99 degrees Celsius, whereas green teas like a temperature of 80, 85 degrees Celsius. So depending on those the teas that you have, you can alter the temperature. So this would be like a 90 degrees Celsius, 300 ml. And we are going to let it brew for 10 to 15 minutes. So you got it right? 4 grams of tea and 300 ml of 90 degrees hot water, exactly like how you would brew your tea. We're going to let it sit for, say, 10 to 15 minutes, let it brew. So we actually brewed a little before, and we strained it. So this is our very strong tea concoction. It is 300 ml of brewed tea right now. It has come to room temperature. It was 90 degrees earlier, right? Now it has become room ambient. And now we're going to add 50 grams of sugar to it. It's our fermenting jar, and you can just use a steel spoon. We're using a wooden one right now, but you can, I think it's better to use standard steel spoons. We're dissolving the tea, the sugar to make it sweet. Make sure that you dissolve it nicely. It smells so good. The black tea smell is so amazing. All right. So we also know that the temperature is ambient right now. You do not want it to be hot at all when you are introducing your SCOBY to it. Now we are gonna top it with 700 ml of water. So you take your drinking water, filtered water. We have like a measuring mug. You take 700 ml. This is plain water, and this goes in our concentrated sweet tea mixture. So why I made a concentrate is because imagine if you're making 5 liters of kombucha. So you wouldn't want to boil 5 liters and make tea for 5 liters and then wait for like 10-15 hours for it to come into room temperature. So instead, we're going to make a strong decoction of tea and then top it off with cold water, and we'll have this tea liquor ready maybe in 30 minutes or so. So this is our 1 liter of sweet tea. Now we're gonna do the interesting thing. So if you have kids around and they are super intrigued by the SCOBY, you can involve them also in this process. Probably let them, wash their hands, have clean hands, and maybe let them touch the rubbery pellicle here. It'll be interesting. And it's not like it's gonna harm you or anything. It's almost like a plant or something. All right, so very important. For 1 liter, I like to actually use 125 ml of starter liquid. So that's what we're gonna do, at least. And this is a very, very tangy starter. The pH, there is a concept called pH, which tells you the acidity or base, how acid or how basic your solution is. So this is super acidic. I think it's 2.5 on the pH scale. If you have a pH scale, you can always measure your acidity. This one is 2.5, and it's one of the best ways to acidify your tea. The stronger it is, the better it is for you, because not only it is going to keep your tea safe from mold, but it is also going to transfer all of the good bacteria and yeast from the starter to the tea. This is the back slopping that we talked about in the morning. So it goes in the cold tea solution. See how easy it is. And now for the fun part, we are going to play with the cellulose. So you know what, sometimes I actually do not even use the cellulose, but it's one of the fun parts. So we are going to do that. We're gonna fish out a nice blob. It's fairly difficult to handle at times. You see how rubbery it is. It's something nothing like anything else you would have seen before. It's pure natural magic, nature's magic, I would say. The bacteria just spin it and take the shape of the vessel they are in. And soon, after a few days, you will start a layer of pellicle growing on top of this jar, which will be round. This one was square because the jar is square, and a new layer will form, which will be round here. All right, so this was our starter bank. We're gonna leave it on the side, and what we're gonna do with our new batch of kombucha jar is that we're gonna take a cloth. It is a cotton cloth which is tightly weaved here. It doesn't have any gaps which can let the flies or any other insects get inside. So I like to do a couple of more folds because it's too big. And I'm going to secure it with a rubber band on the mouth. This is how it will be. So what will happen is a lot of oxygen will go inside, and it will help the bacteria to do its thing. So the bacteria will take the glucose, they will make acids. The yeast will take the glucose from the tea, and it will make things like carbon dioxide, a little bit of ethanol also, that's alcohol. And the bacteria will eat the alcohol and make acids. So it's a very thought through symbiosis of the dance that the bacteria and yeast do. Something the yeast makes, the bacteria utilize, something the bacteria make and the yeast utilize. And all of this will happen in this jar. You're gonna keep it in a place which is away from direct sunlight. You do not want any sun. You would want to keep it in a place which has good airflow, because we need oxygen. Unlike other ferments or other kind of preservation, kombucha needs a lot of air. And it will be a good idea to actually keep shaking your jar here and there, because once you have the pellicle growing on top of it, the oxygen supply will be cut. So you don't want that. You want a lot of oxygen going inside. So you can keep agitating your jar. And do not keep it near any plants with soil and stuff. Why I'm saying that, because this is an open ferment, and this also has certain microbes. You do not want to disturb the balance basically between soil microbiome and this microbiome. A dining table will be great. Some cupboard, open cupboard in your drawing room will be nice. Avoid kitchens, because kitchens have all the fumes and oils and the masalas going on. So, and it is hot also there. So Bangalore, if you guys are in Bangalore, I think we are blessed with great weather. So it won't be a problem. But if you are from a place which is very hot, try to keep your kombucha in a place which is cooler than your standard hot spots in your house. Ideal temperature is anywhere between 22 to 26 degrees Celsius. It's the sweet spot for SCOBY to really thrive. And if it is really cold, if you are in the north side where it actually snows, you would have to actually keep the kombucha jar in a place which is a little warmer, somewhere like 30-ish kind, 28-30-ish is going to be good there, but not too hot, because the heat, if it is too hot, it will destroy the microbes and you will not have kombucha. You will probably have just moldy tea. All right, I'm just gonna go through the questions here. Any brand of sugar, like we said, you can get the best sugar that you get your hands on. Don't get hung up on anything. Later on, you can transition to maybe organic or other things. How old is that? I'm assuming it was the starter. So this one is going on. That one is going on since February. This one is going on since February, and we did not do anything in that. We just keep shaking it, getting the oxygen in, and making sure there's no opportunity for the molds to grow. Any risk of fungus during fermentation? Yes, very important. Remember we talked about pH. We said that 2.5 is a sweet spot. 2.5 is so acidic that it will not let any of the molds grow. So that's why you want it so acidic, so that it makes your tea batch acidic. And if you have a pH scale, you can measure the pH of your brewing vessel. It should be under 4.2. Under 4.2 is when you are sure that there won't be fungal, the opportunities for the fungus to grow. I think you can also use strips. We have not used strips. We use a pH scale, and if you are getting into it, you can probably invest in one, a good pH scale, and keep a check. Does the SCOBY need to be in the airtight jar? See, it's something about something to do with how often are you going to use it. So we like to actually say that you always have SCOBY in at least one extra jar, because if something happens to your primary jar, you will have some liquid in another jar as your backup. So you can definitely use this kind of lug jar and keep some starter liquid in it at room temperature. You do not have to freeze it. Once in a while, just open it, see what's going on, and just go close it back and just keep it. So it will be good in this situation for almost like 3 months. It's not a problem at all. Which SCOBY to use for next batch, the newly created or the last one, or can we use one SCOBY forever? So imagine that it's the 7th day now. You have been agitating it and checking that everything is fine. There is no mold. 7th day, you take a spoon, a clean, dry spoon, and taste it. And you realize that you really like the taste. You really like the sweetness and the sour balance. Now what you do, you stop the fermentation by simply removing the drinking kombucha in any of your bottles. You can use this kind of flip top bottles, or you can use the milk glass bottles also. So you first of all, you take some of the reserve. You take the reserve, which is nothing but your SCOBY for your next batch. You take it out from the top of the jar, because that's where the bacteria population is more. You take it out, probably fill your jar for your next batch, take out the pellicle also, put it probably in a bigger jar, and then churn the liquid nicely. It'll be homogenized, and then you filter, not filter, and then you transfer your liquid to a drinking bottle here. So I'll just repeat it. You reserve first. This is your bank. This is your starter bank. You reserve the liquid. Take out the pellicle also. You can put the pellicle also here itself. Keep it separate. This is your insurance. Now all you have left with is a drinking kombucha that you are going to churn and transfer it back in the bottle. And this is where the fun would lie. Could you pass on one bottle, that orange bottle maybe? Orange. All right, so if you have like a kombucha here in here, and this is where you would do all the flavorings and stuff. So now you already have the reserve, so we don't have to worry about it. Now we can talk about flavors and stuff like that. So you can use things like fruit juices. You can use cut fruits, spices, herbs, flowers. That's one of my most favorite that I love using, and we have it in our flavors also. We do a rose based flavor. We do a blue pea flower flavor. So this is the stage where you go really creative with your brews. If you're into fruits, I would suggest do something which is seasonal at the moment. I think it's the season of pears right now, so you could try something like pear juice and a bit of ginger with it. I think that will be really interesting. And basically try the fruit that you enjoy eating. Chances are that it is going to be something that you would like. And the proportion how we go is, there is no right or wrong proportion. You can start with as less as 10% of the kombucha to up to say 20-25%. So to just put it in perspective, you can have like 850 ml of kombucha, and then you can have 150 ml of your fruit juice. And then you can leave it in this flip top bottles at ambient temperature for say 1 or 2 days. That's where the kombucha will be infused with the new flavors. And then after 2 days, you can put it in the fridge, let the carbonation settle, because that's when the carbonation will really form, because you have cut down the oxygen and you have a lot of sugars, the fruit sugars in here, that will really amp up the carbonation process. So you would want to keep it in the fridge for some time and only then pop it open. Yeah, you would see this kind of hiss. Few things that you should definitely remember is that if you are using fruits, it's definitely gonna be a lot fizzy, and you have to be extra careful if you're using these flip top bottles. Remember that carbonation settles when you have cold temperature. So probably keep your kombucha, this bottle, in the fridge for a while before to settle down the carbonation as such. A lot of times this kind of bottles will erupt, and the way to do it properly is probably do very slow motion burping and put it back. So that's a hazard, kind of a hazard, but you will learn it for sure. If you think that it is going to be too much, just use the lug kind of bottles. You don't have to worry about if this is going to be the right way. No, any glass vessel is absolutely fine, as long as it is not reactive, food grade and stuff. I think we had some questions again. It's going to use. So top of the liquid is what you want to use as a starter culture, because it is richer in bacteria, and in kombucha we want to encourage the bacteria as well. Yes, before you introduce starter your SCOBY to your jar, make sure that it is at ambient temperature. Do not introduce that in hot tea, please. You would kill the SCOBY. Mud pot instead of glass jar. Short answer is no, because your mud pot may have this. The mud pots actually soak in a lot of liquid, right? And they have all sorts of other minerals and stuff going on, and they're ideal for water, but not for acidic ferments like kombucha. Kombucha is going to be acidic. It is going to be less than 4% at any given point of time. So you do not want anything reactive. No crystal, no metal that is reactive. That means no copper, no brass, no crystal related glassware. You would see glassware which are only meant for decoration and not for food grade. So do not use those kind of crystals also. Metal, there's an exception if it is a stainless steel. It's a industrial grade that can be used, but for home purpose, the best of the best is a glass jar. We have you can also use a spigot with the jars which have taps. You can use those, or you can use simple 5-liter jars also. They are economical, they are easy to maintain also, but not mud pots. There are folks who use ceramic, which is food grade and glazed ceramic, but we didn't have the luck of using the ceramic. So make sure that it is not reactive and suitable for acidic ferments. Where do we get SCOBY from? You can find SCOBY online. There are sources on Amazon. There are some Bangalore-based companies. Our friends, arishtam.com, ARISHTAM. That's where you can get kombucha SCOBY. It's not sponsored. They are just our friends, and they do supply throughout the country. So you can check them out also. Can we store in fridge to stop fermentation? That's a great question. So when you are transferring your kombucha to the fridge, it slows down the fermentation drastically. So you would first transfer your starter for the next batch. That's the first thing you will do. You will take the pellicle out, you will take the starter for your next batch, and then you can put the lid on and keep it in the fridge. You don't have to transfer it also in a bottle. But make sure that you have a starter for your next batch. Any website or place, I just said. Do we need to test? Can we have without? Do we need to add anything to the Scoby jar? How long can we keep it? All right. So for pH is not something that you have to test. It's just it's just a precaution that you can take. It's not. It's good to have kind of situation, but always remember what pH does to your brew. The lower pH it is, the acidic it will be. That is less than 4.2, and that will make sure that your kombucha will not be moldy, because it is an open ferment. It can attract mold. It can attract other wild yeast. How you're going to protect it is by using a strong acidic starter. For shaking the jar, I would suggest do it once a day. You can do it every day. Get nice aeration going on in the jar. It's great for the bacteria to really convert those alcohols into acids quickly. And the more acids you will have, the more potent the kombucha will be, and the more safe and secure it will be. So imagine you have like the kombucha is ready now, and you're wondering what to do with it and how do you use it. So if you're super new, like how I was before, it's an acquired taste definitely. But for somebody who want to really begin with experimenting, you can use kombucha in a smoothie. That's one of the ways which has worked for a lot of people who don't like instant sourness. It has this very specific sourness. It's not like a lemon kind of sourness, citrus sourness, but it's more like the acetic acid sourness. So you can mask all of that flavors in a smoothie. Bananas, if you are using bananas in your smoothie, it really works. Completely masks the flavors, but you still get the benefits of it. Another way of using kombucha is just using it as a mixer for your fruit juices or as a mixer for your drinks. You can make a nice mocktail out of kombucha instead of using a carbonated beverage, because kombucha already has a little bit of effervescence, and that kind of will help you cut down on all the extra calories also that you're getting from a bottled carbonated beverage. Beyond that, if your kombucha is super sour, you can use it as a vinegar. You can use it in your salad dressings, and you can use it even for deglazing your pans and stuff. So we love using kombucha vinegars for salad dressings and stuff like that. At what stage can we start flavoring the kombucha? Once you find out that the kombucha has a right balance for your taste. Say it could be 7 days for me, but it could be 14 days for you. So you have to keep tasting your kombucha probably after 7 days or so, because it needs at least 7 days to start fermenting it properly. So 7 days, you don't like it, you don't stop the fermentation. You keep going. 10th day, you again taste it. You don't like the flavor. You want it more sour. You leave it as it is. You keep it fermenting. Probably on 15th day, you were like, okay, this is my taste. That is where you stop that fermentation and start flavoring. And again, it's very, very customized, very, very personal to you. I like it. I might like it at 7th day. You might like it at 15th day. Is it safe for diabetic to drink? Very good question. So we need to understand that everything that we eat is going to convert into sugar, but how much, right? And beverages are notorious for having one of the highest sugars. But what makes kombucha so unique is not just the probiotics, but what the probiotics actually do to the tea. Those antioxidants that are broken down from the tea are great, and there are researchers, mostly in vitro, that is a lab test that goes on. They are promising results where they see improvement in diabetic rats. But you have to be careful about how much sugar actually you are consuming in the end product. So I suggest for anybody who's a diabetic, keep your doctors in loop that you are trying something like a fermented food like this, and have a kombucha that is super low in sugar. Probably, so our kombucha is as less as 3.2 grams per 100 ml. If you see any bottled beverage, any bottled beverage, non-kombucha also, you would see a higher percentage, like upwards of 10 grams per 100 ml. So you see the difference, 3.2 versus 100 grams, 10 grams per ml. You see the difference and you can make a judgment as to what is better for you. And it's super refreshing, the antioxidants, the life cultures, all of that has a long-term impact on your health. Again, it's not a magic drink. It is something is fermented. It's great for your gut, and when your gut is in place, it supports all your other bodily functions also. But keep your doctor updated. How often does the pressure need to be released after refrigeration? Well, if it is a fruit-based ferment, the pressure will be fairly less. You can probably burp it twice, once in 2 days. For example, say pineapple kombucha might need frequent burping. Burping is nothing but this action. This is called burping. So pineapple might need more frequent burping than, say, a ginger. Benefits of the drink instead of the drinking kombucha. Yes, well, that's one of my most favorite thing to do. A cup of green tea and a cup of green tea kombucha, you're gonna get more antioxidants and you're gonna get more out of the tea from a green tea kombucha because it is fermented. All of the nutrients are kind of disintegrated during the fermentation process that your body will easily absorb versus just a green tea. So anything that you ferment is great for your body because your body is readily going to take all those nutrients and process them. Kombucha is also known to have naturally occurring B vitamins, and that's a fairly interesting phenomena because green tea doesn't have much B vitamins in the first place, a green tea cup. But when you ferment that green tea into a green tea kombucha, you also get B vitamins purely because of the Scoby fermentation. You do not add any pills to it. It's just you add the Scoby, and the Scoby literally manufactures all those nutrients. That's so fascinating. Is there alcohol in kombucha? Of course, but it is so low. It is lower than even your ripe fruits because any fermented product has traces of alcohol. But what makes kombucha so unique and so different from beers and wines is that kombucha has bacteria, and the bacteria eats alcohol. And it eats alcohol and converts that into acids. So the more bacteria you have, the less alcohol you will have in the end product, and you'll have more acids. That's why the tangy kombuchas will almost have nil or very low alcohol. And it's naturally very low that you cannot be intoxicated with it. It will not be under influence. It's so mild that it's less than a ripe banana. Ripe banana has alcohol, and kombucha has lesser alcohol than that. And kombucha is also halal because it is not something that will intoxicate you. You can drink, if you're a beginner, I would suggest you drink anywhere between 100 ml or 120 ml. That's the dosage that FDA has also come up with. But you can later on increase when your body gets used to it because it's raw, live, unpasteurized and fermented, right? So you would want to give your body this leeway into adjusting to it. Yes, the more you ferment, the less sugar you will have in the end product. So if you are fermenting, say, for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, the sugar will be way less than how it was on day 7 or day 15. I wanted to talk to you guys about food pairings also. So one of my most favorite ways to get people to drink kombucha is to add them to their meals. If you're eating a carb-laden meal, say a pizza or a naan or something, you can probably have kombucha on the side, or you can even have kombucha later on once you finish your meal because it really helps you digest and it helps you feel really light and refreshing. It's a great alternative to any of your carbonated beverages any day. So if you have something brewing, do use it with your meals. It's a great way. My most favorite actually is using kombucha along with like a nice hearty salad. Love pairing it with things like potato salads or even a lentil based salad. Any flavor will do, but I think best is the original unflavored one, because that kind of tells you where you are, what kind of flavors, flavor profile in kombucha that you like. For flavor, so again, if you guys are starting your kombucha journey, I would suggest go do very plain basic tea, basic sugar, and just go ahead with it. Make sure that you have a good first batch, and then you build up on your extra starter that you can use for your experimental flavors. And once you have a lot of starter and a lot of scobies, you can start sharing it with your friends and family. It's very nice to have a circle that has the same enthusiasm about fermentation as you have. So do share. And we also encourage you to just, if you want to get in touch with us, you can probably just find us on Instagram, Mountain Bee Kombucha, and you can DM us. We'll be happy to give you, to troubleshoot basically. I think we have 4 more minutes. And I think we have another question. How do I get from the computer? Just pull it in. So the more you ferment, the more tangy it will get, and there will be a limit to where you would find it unpalatable. It will be super vinegary, and probably that's when you say, okay, I do not want to have so much of acidic kombucha. It will not spoil. That's the beauty of it. Acidic things will not spoil. So if you think it's too acidic, you can dilute it with fruit juices or even ice and have it, but it is not going to spoil. So we have some kombuchas that are going on for like, I think 12 months or so. They did not become tangy. I love drinking them. They have a more aged and a rounded flavor, which I really enjoy. They're not even refrigerated. They're like sour, but not sweet, but still pleasant. So they're not going to spoil. So if you're using flavorings, any fruit flavorings in your kombucha, the shelf life will vary. It will be anywhere between say 3 weeks to a couple of months probably, but the taste will change drastically. On day one, how you would have liked say a pineapple kombucha might be different from say 1 month old kombucha that is sitting in your refrigerator. So fruit kombuchas, do try to finish them. But if you have plain kombuchas that do not have any fresh fruit or fresh herbs or spices, they are plain, or you have used dry flowers or dry herbs. Yes, dry herbs. They will can be in the fridge for like months together. 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. You can try for a year also. I mean, we have a 12 months old bottle outside the fridge right now, and it's beautiful. Few things that I love trying is this blend of lemongrass and rose petals. I like to infuse my personal consumption kombucha with this blend. Love this lemongrass and rose. There's chamomile. That's one of my other favorites. We love infusing these flowers in our bottles. We would infuse it for a couple of days, and then we would just transfer this in the fridge. Why I say that I love dried stuff is because they have a very intense flavor, and they have a lot of other benefits, which makes the whole drink like even more interesting, nutritious, refreshing, and stuff.
Shall we end the session here? We're almost out of time.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for hearing us out on Saturday morning. I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions or you want to just follow our journey, we are on Instagram, Mountain Bee Kombucha, and we'll see you there. And
so your stuff is available on Farmers End. What all is there? What all flavors are available?
Yes. All of our flavors are available on Farmazon. So if you guys want to try out your first kombuchas, please give us a try and tell us how you like it. Do tell us in our DMs about what you feel about it. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks, Prashant, for arranging. Thanks to the Farmazon team.
Thanks, honey. So I think this was a great session. A lot of questions came in. So thank you everyone for joining in. If you do want to get this kombucha, you can at through the Farmazon app. So to know more, you can just visit www.farmazon.com. I'll drop the link in the chat box as well. Do you have any final plugs that you want to do? Social media social media handles, or anything, honey?
Yes, so and you can find us on social media. We are on our website, and if whenever you're making your kombuchas, if you want to share it on social media, you can tag us, or you can send us your photographs. Also, we love looking at them and giving our opinion about it.
Okay, thank you so much for the session. Thank you everyone for joining in.